for an entire day's work. He goes home after having dealt with about 6 or 7 people with about 150 rupees in his pocket. Yeah, and these, like I said, are people who are on this in transit on these buses or the flying or coaches or whatever they call them. But I'm not even buzzed about that. I'm not even buzzed about so much about the vendors, the local vendors, kadhai wala and flana flana. What I'm really buzzed about is the fact that some of these people are actually policemen.
There's a fact that a lot of abuse goes unreported because when they go to the law enforcers or the protectors, where they would go, they become the traumatizer of the victim.
I think that is an important point because, you know, when you're talking about someone who's been abused, particularly if it's a child, if they get past the point of telling someone, you know, and they get past the point of getting help, even whether it be legal or going to the authorities, then what do you do? Because there's no place for someone who's been abused to really go. Let's say it's a woman who's in a situation where she's having, you know, domestic violence. There's no real safe haven for her.
We support me.
Right, and for a child, you know, a child who's been abused, or anybody who's been abused, needs, you know, counseling. They need some sort of psychological help, and there's no support system.
Aren't there organizations that are being set up now? Like, for instance, I know it was in, I think 2001, there was an organization set up called Madadgar, and I was looking into information about them. They do have a lot of calls that come in. Unfortunately, only about, I think it was like 46 or 47% of those calls actually get followed up on, because sometimes what happens is people actually call in, make the report, and then they back out. Okay?
Excuse me, do they back out or are they forced to back out?
That we don't know. I don't know. You know, so I mean, you may come and report.
I have a question. Are they not traceable? Can you not contact them?
They want to withdraw the complaint.
They would,
so you're not able to follow up on it.
Okay. Statistics have it that majority of the times, if you are an abuser, you have been abused.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that really true?
That is true. That is actually.
Is that like revenge?
It's not. I don't know if
it's more like if it has happened to me, why should I be the only one who should suffer?
So it's like revenge on society.
Yeah.
No, but doing it to your own child, for instance, that doesn't mean the same thing.
Sheena, what do you think?
Doing it to your own child, it's sort of almost like training. That's how you were raised.
Oh, you think it's all right?
You
justify
that's what
you've
it.
seen, and
yeah, you justify.
At some point, you've actually accepted it.
Yes.
That has to be the only explanation for doing something you're doing.
Yeah.
Sheena,
you wouldn't otherwise be doing it.
Sure. Sheena, what do you think when you think?
Well, I think that, I mean, it's part of a whole host of, you know, psychological effects that occur with abuse, and there can be many. I mean, there's increased rates of anxiety and depression and inability to have intimate relationships, and obviously there's you know, scars that go along with that abuse, even when there is counseling. When there isn't counseling, it's even more exaggerated. But, you know, children who are abused, becoming abusers, I think is a product basically of, often them being abused by people that they trust the most. And then also having sort of an inner, you know, rage and anger about it, something that has to in some way eventually be released.
Yeah.
And then also, you know, where are they learning their value systems?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're learning their value systems in the family.
Omar, do you think it's really safe to say that just about everyone has had some personal experience of abuse as a child or as a young adult?
I think you're absolutely right. It may be anything from observing or experiencing something between our parents to some of us experiencing an affair that a parent may have had to
a cousin being abused, a relative abusing, or anything.
It could be something as simple as "Jao beta, tum Mushtaq driver ke saath jaake bahar khelo," and the Mushtaq driver takes you up to the chat and he does his thing, and you know, it could be anything from that. And
it happens very commonly.
Before I want to come right back to that, but we're talking about abusers, and you said earlier that, you know, teenagers getting married. Is that in itself a kind of abuse? And, you know, our film industry, because Indian films, Pakistan, they're all revolving around boy falls in love, girl, dad says na na na, they break up, they meet. is that forced marriage or marriage against a child? Is that a form of abuse?
It could be considered a form of emotional abuse.
And that could traumatize you
Of
or
course.
damage you for life or just
course.
mess you up forever.
Yeah. Or
In that
a
case,
young
any-
girl being married off to a man who's 4 times her age.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that if that's not a form of abuse? And
You know,
In that case, there
Well,
are many
I won't
forms of
touch that
abuse.
because, of course, in our own religion we have examples of such things. That there's certain situations which could warrant that. So I'm going to leave that alone. But generally speaking, my point is taking a child who's not interested in it. You know, in our society, it's getting married just because you're coming of age and you have to get married, not because you're in love with someone.
Yeah.
So is that an abuse?
Of course, it's traumatizing the child. Of course.
Or a young adult or an
Among
adult?
many other things that we do wrong while we're upbringing our children, among many other things.
I think
We
I
don't
would-
encourage
I would,
people to fall in love, maybe.
Yeah,
you generalize it. You could say anything that's
Yeah, you
done
can
without
say-
consent
Yeah, anything. That's
is, it's something that's done against someone's will or without their consent is in a way, I mean, we usually use that when we're talking about rape or we're talking about something that's forced physically. But, I mean, having somebody spend the rest of their life with someone that they do not consent to live with or be with is, I mean,
Or it's just not socially acceptable to your family or whoever. I mean,
no.
I think forget all of that. If I had the opportunity, I would, and I'm thinking this more on personal grounds as well. If I had the opportunity, I would like to get lots and lots of parents together, okay, and be able to say to them that as a child growing up, a majority of my personal issues developed from my personal upbringing between my parents and my environment, which was created by my own parents. Okay, so let's just, I mean, for the time being, for the moment,
Omar, could you talk more about that?
I can say with complete comfort that a lot of the issues that I have with be it my personality, or be it with me making friends, or be it with me being the loud person I am because I want to be the center of attraction, is because of the mismanagement of me as a child by my parents.
Omar, I completely relate to that, and I think our personalities quite alike. And now what you just mentioned is making me wonder about myself. Because I'm full of myself. I want to be the center of attraction. I'm all loud, and what am I harboring in me? What am I trying to suppress and hide, maybe? Help me here.